in the heart of the Kenyan savanna, where the majestic Masai Mara National Reserve stretches. The wild world holds within it stories that can forever change our perception of nature and relationships between species. This place, where unbridled beauty hides unimaginable wonders, and the laws of survival seem immutable and ruthless, sometimes becomes witness to moments that cut through all our assumptions about how the world of nature functions. One bright, sunny morning on the vast, green savanna of Masai Mara, sunrise cast a honey golden glow on tall grass reaching up to a person's waist. The air was fresh and cool, carrying with it the scent of moist earth and wild flowers, interwoven with bird songs, beginning another day in this extraordinary ecosystem. Elias Kiprotik, a dedicated ranger with over 10 years of experience working in the reserve, drove his familiar beige patrol vehicle along paths he knew like the back of his hand. He had witnessed countless scenes in this place, from the great wildebeest migration to spectacular hunts by lions and leopards, from dramatic territorial fights to tender family moments between different animal species. Each day brought a new story, but rarely did something truly amaze him enough to completely change his perception of the natural world. Elias's career was inseparably connected to this land. He knew every corner, every dry and rainy season, every habit of the animals living in this ecosystem. He believed he understood the indisputable laws of the savannah, the law of the stronger, the ruthless laws of survival, where each day is a fight for life, and compassion is a luxury for which there is no place. However, on this particular morning, everything he believed in was to be completely destroyed by one incredible event. His mind ran through the daily list of tasks, checking fences, noting elephant tracks, observing the condition of water holes, when a gentle sound caught his attention. It was a sound of innocence, childlike joy that didn't fit the harsh reality of the savannah. Quiet giggling and clumsy but enthusiastic movements of a small gorilla playing at the edge of a small thicket of trees. The little one was separated from its group, probably exploring the world carefreely, never having encountered real danger before. Its pure eyes sparkled with curiosity, and every unsteady step emanated innocence that had never known fear. Elias smiled weakly, seeing this touching scene. It was a simple, charming snapshot from wild nature. He slowed the vehicle, wanting to stop for a moment to observe this tiny creature. However, then he noticed another movement from a nearby bush. A huge rock python with a dark body silently slithered out of its hiding place. It moved lightly like a shadow, making no sound, its eyes cold and focused on the target. Elias felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He knew this snake well. Their silence was a harbinger of death, and their strength was capable of crushing the bones of even larger animals. Before the small gorilla could react, or even perhaps realize the approaching danger, its delicate body was tightly wrapped by the python's cold muscles. The innocent laughter disappeared, replaced by desperate, painful screaming. The gorilla struggled ineffectively, its frightened eyes wide open, searching for a glimmer of hope, salvation that seemed impossible. Elias held his breath, helplessly watching the terrifying scene unfolding before his eyes. He had witnessed many deaths in nature, but this scene, with the innocence of the young one and the brutality of the predator, carried indescribable pain. Between life and death, what can make a predator change its instinct? The weak sounds of struggle attracted the attention of another creature. A large, adult male lion, his golden mane blazing in the sun, appeared from afar. He approached, each majestic step determined and full of strength. Elias, still in his vehicle, was tense to the limits of possibility. He imagined the next bloody scene. The lion would finish off the python, or worse, consider the small gorilla easy prey. This was the predator instinct that Elias knew all too well from years of experience in the reserve. But then something strange happened, something that contradicted all the laws of nature he had observed so far. The lion stopped, looking at the scene before him with hesitation. His amber eyes didn't gleam with predator hunger. This wasn't prey in the traditional sense. This was a weak creature fighting in agony on the edge of death. Something in the small gorilla's cries in his despair touched a deeper instinct in the lion. The hunting instinct, which Elias considered most important, seemed to be overshadowed by something else, a strange and primal impulse of protection. This wasn't compassion in the human sense, but some kind of primal connection that is difficult for us to explain. The lion approached even closer, each step careful and deliberate. He didn't growl, didn't bare his fangs in an aggressive posture. With a movement unexpectedly delicate for such a powerful animal, he slowly grasped the small gorilla's neck in his jaws. Elias held his breath, convinced that the creature was dead or would die from this bite. But no, the lion grasped the small gorilla, not to harm it, but to take it away, to tear the little one from the python's terrifying grip. The python's grip was still very strong, but the lion patiently and slowly pulled the small gorilla away from inevitable death. The python also seemed exhausted after its attack, loosening its grip for a moment. The lion walked decisively, carrying the python-wrapped small gorilla toward the forest, where Elias had just seen a large group of gorillas. This was incredible. Why would a predator take its prey to safety? This moment destroyed every rule Elias had ever known about wild nature. It forced him to ask the question, are there deeper layers of emotion, more complex instincts in the animal world that we have never fully understood? What motivated the lion to this act? Is it possible that even in the harshest environments, there is still room for compassion? The encounter of the lion with the mountain gorilla male, a climate of conflict or the beginning of unexpected understanding. Elias now stopped his vehicle. From a distance he watched with wide open eyes as the incredible scene continued to unfold. The lion, still gently holding the python-wrapped small gorilla in its mouth, walked directly toward a large mountain gorilla male, clearly the group's leader. This mountain gorilla was a powerful male with a massive build and keen eyes that gleamed with intelligence and determination. He roared, a roar that echoed across the savannah, a roar signaling bloody battle. The entire group of gorillas also panicked, ready for confrontation with their natural enemy. The instinct to protect the group, especially the young, rose powerfully. Elias prepared to witness a fight to the death between two of the savannah's strongest animals. But then the mountain gorilla stopped. He didn't rush to attack. His roar still echoed, but his gaze changed. His eyes looked at the lion, then moved to the motionless small gorilla lying in the enemy's mouth. Perhaps in this moment he recognized something extraordinary. There was no aggression, no intention of attack from the lion's side, only caution and a strange act bringing his offspring back. The lion slowly placed the small gorilla on the ground as gently as possible. The python was still tightly wrapped around the lower part of the small gorilla's body, but now was motionless, seeming exhausted after the fight. This moment seemed to last forever. Time stopped. The lion stepped back a few steps, maintaining a safe distance, as if waiting, as if returning this tiny creature to its family. And then with a powerful jerk and earth-shaking roar, the mountain gorilla pulled the snake off his young one. He no longer cared about the python. All his focus was on his small offspring. He held the limp small gorilla against his chest, gently rocking it. Elias felt a lump in his throat, watching every small movement of the small gorilla. Its small eyes slowly opened. It was still alive. A weak whimper escaped from the little one. In this moment, on the wild savannah, there were no shots, blood, or violent conflicts, only the lion's compassion, the gorilla father's love, and his own. A human who could only stand and observe, learning to understand. This transcended all concepts of the food chain, survival instinct. This was a lesson in empathy, in the invisible connection between living beings. Which of us cannot tell a story about parental instinct, but what happens when this instinct is expressed unexpectedly even by a natural opponent? Can an act of pure compassion redefine our understanding of animal behavior? The story of the lion and the small gorilla sends shivers down our spines, but also opens new doors in understanding the animal world. As a narrator and also a researcher, I always look for scientific explanations behind these strange phenomena. So what motivated the lion to perform this seemingly counterintuitive act? Although such cases of interspecies rescue are extremely rare, they are not non existent. Scientists, particularly those who study animal behavior, ethology, have studied and continue to study the complex layers of their emotions and behaviors. Some theories suggest that animals with highly developed nervous systems, especially those with complex social structures, may possess a form of primitive empathy. This is not necessarily empathy in the human sense, with the ability to consciously put oneself in someone else's situation and share emotions. Instead, it may be an instinctive response to suffering or danger of another living creature, especially weak young ones. Some research indicates that carnivorous animals sometimes exhibit strange altruistic behavior, especially toward young of other species if they don't perceive a threat or are not hungry. Perhaps the small gorilla's desperate cries triggered some protective reaction in the lion. Perhaps unconscious association with its own young, or simply an error in the usual sequence of hunting reactions. Moreover, the shared environment of species in Masai Mara, where species often meet, whether as rivals or prey, may also create more complex interactions than we imagine. There are many documented cases of wild animals adopting young of other species or even protecting them from predators. This suggests that besides survival instincts, there may be emotional circuits or special behavior patterns activated by external factors. This challenges the traditional concept of the strong eat the weak and opens a new perspective that the natural world is not only brutal, but also contains moments of extraordinary connection and compassion. We gradually realize that the animal world is not as simple as we once thought. They possess cognitive and emotional abilities that science is still trying to decipher. If compassion can exist in a wild lion, what does this say about our own potential? When Elias observed the small gorilla safely nestled in its father's arms, a strong wave of emotion ran through him. There were no shots, bloodshed, conflict, only empathy, understanding from the lion, from the gorilla father, and from himself. A human who could only stand, observe, and learn to understand. This moment forever changed his perception of relationships between wild species and more broadly between humans and nature. This story is not just a record of strange event. It's a powerful reminder that compassion, connection, and the ability to share are not exclusive privileges of humanity. They exist everywhere in every form if we are subtle enough to notice them. In a world sometimes full of divisions and conflicts, this story offers a delicate but profound solution: the ability to connect based on understanding, not violence or fear. It shows us that even natural enemies can find common ground in protecting life. The lesson from the Masai Mara savannah that day was priceless. It teaches us that in life we don't need shots or bloodshed to solve problems. Sometimes all we need is an open heart, a perspective that goes beyond prejudices, and the will to protect life, regardless of whose life or what species it might be. Like Elias, we can learn to step back, observe, and accept unexpected lessons from the world around us. If you are fascinated by this journey and want to know more stories that change perception of the natural world, this tale reminds us of the complexity and beauty of interspecies relationships that science is just beginning to understand.